You're listening to Agile, skill thrills and business chills. Join hosts Laura and Brian as they explore the skills and insights you need to succeed in today's business world. Let's dive in.
Okay, so we're diving into Agile Project Management today. It's everywhere you look these days.
It is.
And I feel like so many people are talking about it, that it's easy to kind of tune it out.
Yeah.
But we're doing a deep dive on this one.
We are, yeah. It's a fascinating topic.
So no matter where you are in your understanding, like even if you feel like you've got a pretty good grasp on Agile, this deep dive is gonna offer something.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a new perspective or a new tool for your toolkit.
And what's really interesting is it's more than just like a methodology or a set of tools, Agile. It's really a philosophy, a different way of approaching work.
Yeah, and it's funny, our sources really emphasize that. Like, this isn't just some trendy buzzword.
Right.
This is like a fundamental shift in how work gets done, especially I feel like in fields like software development tech.
Exactly.
Where things move so quickly, you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah, adaptability is key.
And I feel like that's what we keep seeing, like this emphasis on embracing change and, welcoming that evolution of a product.
Yeah.
Speaking of, there's this thing, the Agile Manifesto, that pops up a lot. Can you unpack that for us a bit?
Yeah, so the Agile Manifesto, it's a really fascinating piece of history, actually. So back in 2001, you had a group of software developers who were kind of fed up with the limitations of traditional project management.
Okay.
So they decided to get together and they created this manifesto. And basically what it did was let out this new philosophy for software development. And they really emphasize 4 core values. And I think they're really important to keep in mind. So the first one is individuals and interactions over processes and tools.
Oh, okay.
So it's really about that human element.
Right.
The second one is working software over comprehensive documentation. So it's not about getting bogged down in paperwork. It's about delivering actual value.
Right. Like, show me the product.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. The third is customer collaboration over contract negotiation.
Okay.
So really involving the customer throughout the process.
Right.
And then the last one, and this is a big one, is responding to change over following a plan.
Okay, so that really speaks to what we were just talking about.
Exactly.
With this idea of adaptability.
Yeah.
Being able to pivot.
Because, especially in today's environment, right? Like, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring?
Right. Things change so quickly.
Exactly.
So to be able to be like, okay, we had a plan.
Right.
But now we need to adjust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which makes you wonder, what were those traditional approaches that these developers were like, we've got to come up with something totally new?
Exactly, yeah. They were hitting a wall, and they knew there had to be a better way.
So walk us through that.
So imagine this. You're building a house.
Okay.
And you're using the traditional waterfall method.
Okay.
Which is kind of like what they were doing before.
Okay.
So you lay the foundation first.
Okay.
Right. Then you build the walls. And then you suddenly realize, oh, we need an extra bathroom.
Yeah.
At that point, it's too late.
Right, because you've already laid the foundation. Exactly. It's going to be super costly to change the plan at that point.
Right. You've got to break down a wall.
Yeah.
Start over.
It's a mess. It's not efficient.
So is Agile, is it more like, I don't want to say building with Legos, but...
That's a great analogy.
But is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, it's very much like that. You can adjust as you go.
Okay.
So you can be building and realize, oh, okay, this piece actually needs to go over here, and you just adjust it in the moment.
So it's less about sticking to the original plan no matter what.
Exactly.
And more about being flexible.
Yeah, being adaptable, responding to change, those core values we talked about.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually implement that? Right, so Agile provides a framework for this adaptability, and our sources talk about 6 key deliverables. You've got your product vision statement, the product roadmap, the product backlog, release schedule, sprint backlog, and finally, the increment.
Okay, that's a lot of stuff.
It seems like a lot, but they all work together really well.
Okay, well, break it down for us. Let's start with that product vision statement. What's that all about?
Sure, so the product vision statement, that's like your North Star for the entire project. It's a concise, clear articulation of the overarching goal, what you're ultimately trying to achieve.
So it's like everyone's on the same page. They know where they're headed.
Exactly, yeah. No one's getting lost in the woods. They know what they're working towards.
Okay. And then how does the product roadmap fit into that?
So the roadmap is like sketching out the journey to that North Star, right? So it outlines the major features, the releases, milestones, basically providing this high-level view of how you envision getting to that ultimate goal.
Okay, so we've got the big picture goal, we've got the roadmap of how we're going to get there, but what about all those little details? That's where the product backlog comes in.
You got it. So the product backlog, think of it as your prioritized wish list for the entire project. It's everything you need to do, every feature, every function, all organized and prioritized.
So is this like a static document?
Not at all. It's constantly being reviewed, reprioritized, updated as the project evolves, as you get feedback, as things change.
Oh, okay, so it's a living document.
Exactly. It needs to be able to breathe and adapt.
Okay, so it's not set in stone. We've also heard these terms sprints and increments.
Right. So those are key parts of the Agile process, particularly in the Scrum framework, which we'll talk about more later.
Okay.
But to put it simply, sprints are these shorter, more manageable time boxes where you focus on completing a set amount of work from that product backlog.
Okay, so instead of looking at the entire project, it's like, okay, what are we doing this sprint?
Exactly. Typically, a sprint is like 2 weeks long.
Okay.
And each sprint aims to deliver something called an increment.
And the increment is?
The increment is a tangible working piece of the final product. It's not just an idea. It's something that you can actually see, interact with, get feedback on.
Oh, so it's like a mini milestone.
Exactly.
You're getting these little pieces of the puzzle done.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's like you're actually making progress. You can see.
Exactly, yeah. It keeps the momentum going.
Okay, that makes sense. So who are the people making these increments happen?
Right, because Agile is all about collaboration.
Yeah, it's not a one-man, one-woman show.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So our sources talk about these key players in the Agile world.
Okay.
You've got the product owner,
Okay.
the development team, of course, the Scrum Master, stakeholders,
Okay.
and then often you'll have an Agile mentor as well.
Okay, that's a lot of people. Let's break it down. Let's start with the product owner. What's their primary responsibility?
So the product owner, you can think of them as the captain of the ship. They're the ones who are ultimately accountable for the product's success. They're the ones who really guide the vision. They're prioritizing that backlog we talked about, making sure that everything aligns with the customer's needs.
So they've got to be really in tune with what the customer actually wants.
Absolutely, yeah. Customer centricity is key for the product owner.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the development team, they're the ones who are actually building the thing, right?
Right. They're the builders, the creators, the ones turning that vision into a reality.
Okay.
And this is where Agile gets really interesting because these teams, they're self-organizing.
Oh, okay.
You know, they're empowered to make decisions together, to collaborate, to find those creative solutions.
That's pretty cool. So it's not like the old way of doing things where it's very top-down.
Exactly. It's about empowering the team.
Okay. But then you've got all this freedom. You need someone to make sure that things are actually getting done.
Right. Exactly.
Is that where the Scrum Master comes in?
You got it. So the Scrum Master is like that facilitator, right?
Okay.
They're making sure that the Agile process is running smoothly,
Okay.
that the team has everything they need to be successful. They're removing roadblocks. They're facilitating communication. They're really the champion of the Agile process.
Okay, so they're like keeping everyone on track and making sure that everyone's like, working together.
Exactly, yeah. They're like the glue that holds everything together.
Okay. Now, what about the stakeholders? Where do they fit into all of this?
So stakeholders, they can be customers, managers, and users.
Okay.
Basically anyone who has a vested interest in the product.
Okay.
And their feedback is crucial.
So they're not just like watching from the sidelines.
No, they're very much involved in the process.
Okay.
And Agile really emphasizes getting that constant feedback.
Okay, and then last but not least, we've got the Agile mentor. Who is this mystical being?
So the Agile mentor, they're like the wise sage, right?
Okay.
They've been there, they've done that. They've got tons of experience with Agile.
Okay.
And they're there to guide the team.
Okay, so they're like a consultant almost.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're really invested in the team's success.
Okay, so they're there to like help the team improve their Agile processes.
Exactly.
So we've talked about these core values of Agile. We've
Yeah.
talked about like the key players.
Mhm.
But our sources go into these two specific frameworks, Scrum and Kanban. Can you tell us a little bit more about those and how they actually work?
Yeah, so Scrum and Kanban, they're two of the most popular Agile frameworks.
Okay.
And they both take those Agile values and put them into practice in slightly different ways. So Scrum, as we kind of touched on earlier, it's all about those short, iterative cycles.
Right, the sprints.
Exactly. Typically 2 weeks long, where the goal is to deliver a potentially shippable product increment at the end of each sprint.
So you're getting those little wins along the way.
Exactly. And to help manage those sprints, Scrum has these specific ceremonies or meetings that are built in.
Okay.
So you've got sprint planning, where you figure out what you're actually going to do during the sprint.
Okay.
You've got daily scrums, which are like these quick check-ins to make sure everyone's on track. And then you have the sprint review, where you actually demo what you've accomplished during the sprint.
Oh, cool. So you get to actually show what you've done.
Exactly, and get feedback on it.
Okay.
And then finally, the sprint retrospective, where the team kind of reflects on what went well, what could be improved for the next sprint.
So it's like this constant cycle of planning, doing, reviewing, adapting.
You got it. That's Scrum in a nutshell.
Okay, that makes sense. So if Scrum is all about those time-boxed sprints, what's Kanban all about?
So Kanban is a little bit different. It's less about those time boxes and more about visualizing and optimizing your workflow. So imagine like a whiteboard.
Okay.
With different columns representing the different stages of development. So you might have to do in progress, done. And then each task is represented by a card. And you literally move those cards across the board as you're working on them.
So you can visually see where everything is in the process.
Exactly. And this is really helpful for identifying bottlenecks. Because you can see if there's like a pileup of cards in one column.
Right. Like, why is everything stuck in progress?
Exactly. So it helps you to optimize that flow of work.
So it's less about like sticking to a strict timeline and more about just making sure that work is flowing through the system.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So I imagine choosing between Scrum and Kanban really depends on like what kind of project you're working on.
Absolutely.
What are some of those like deciding factors?
So you're right. There's no one-size-fits-all here.
Yeah.
But our sources suggest that Scrum, with those structured sprints and that emphasis on like cross-functional teams, it's often a really good fit for projects that are more complex.
Okay.
Where maybe the requirements are still evolving, like software development.
Right. You're constantly getting that feedback and adjusting.
Exactly.
What about Kanban? When is that a better choice?
Kanban is really great for teams that are dealing with a continuous flow of work.
Okay.
So think like customer support.
Okay.
Or maintenance, where priorities can change like really quickly.
Right.
And you need to be able to adapt on the fly.
So it's less about like these big milestones and more about just like keeping things moving.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the agile values.
Yeah.
We've talked about these different frameworks. But like for someone who's listening and they're thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but like, why should I care?
Right.
What's the bottom line here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimately, Agile is about delivering value.
Okay.
It's about creating this environment where teams can thrive, where they can adapt to change, and consistently deliver these high-quality products or services that are actually meeting those customer needs.
And doing it in a way that's efficient.
Exactly.
Less risk.
Absolutely.
Better communication.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And one of the things that really stuck out to me in the research was this company that dramatically reduced its development time by switching to Agile.
Oh, wow.
They went from these months-long product cycles to releasing updates every 2 weeks.
That's incredible.
Yeah, talk about a competitive advantage.
Yeah, that's huge. It's really amazing to see like how this shift to Agile, it's not just some like passing trend.
Right.
It's really a fundamental change.
It is.
In how we think about work.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because I feel like these principles, like embracing change, collaborating effectively, like iterating towards a solution, those are things that you can apply in any area of life.
100%.
Like it doesn't have to be.
It's a mindset.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
It's not just about the tools.
Okay, so whether you're managing projects or just trying to like navigate life.
Absolutely.
A little dose of agile thinking can probably help you out.
I love that.
So this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Into the world of agile.
Yeah.
We've explored the history, the values,
The framework.
the frameworks, key players.
Yeah.
We've even thought about how to apply these principles beyond project management.
Absolutely.
So until next time, stay agile, my friends.